That was one of those deals where you're motivated by just raw fear that you don't want to screw it up, that you have to do a good job with it.
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association, providing benefits and services to real estate investors and rental property owners for over 45 years. With your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group.
Hello and welcome to episode number 7. Today, I sit down to talk with Denison Adrianse, the owner and broker of Lighthouse Property Management, which is a West Michigan company that's been in business for 13 years. Kathy has a passion for buying and selling real estate, and lately that passion has led her to a new market in West Michigan. Today, we'll reveal that market and discuss the types of rental properties that Kathy owns, her use of private money, and her philosophy on finding success in real estate investing. Tell me, let's start with the biggest hat. What is your biggest, is it the management company that you run?
Yeah, it is. Actually, I'm the owner and broker of Lighthouse Property Management, and we've been in business for, I think we're going on our 13th year. We're a West Michigan startup company. So we started by opening up shop and cold calling. We actually grew our company calling RPOA members years ago, offering our management services. The reason why we started the management company is because I have a passion for buying and selling myself, real estate. And as I was selling to investors, we felt the need to have a different philosophy in management companies here in town. So we opened our doors, and it was because as we were selling real estate, we wanted a good referral source for a management company. So we stick with a base of owners that we consider to be friends and family, people that we care about. And we manage the properties as if they were ours, as if we own them. So our philosophy has always been, if this was one of Kathy's holdings, how would it be managed? And that's how my staff has been trained, and that's how they work with the properties.
Talk about Lighthouse a little bit. Tell me how big it is, how many properties you manage, how many owners you work with.
Sure. We manage right now for 127 different owners. We manage 1,300 units that are between Kent County to the Lakeshore. So some properties in Ottawa County and some stuff up to Muskegon County. We're actually just growing our Muskegon base right now. Everything that we manage is third-party management. So at this time, we don't manage any properties that need on-site management. So our typical owner who we manage for owns between a portfolio of a couple single-family houses up into several hundred units, but in increments of smaller locations. So we have a staff of 10 employees, which is a mixture of leasing agents and maintenance coordinators, and then the admin that does lease renewals and, all the day-to-day heavy lifting of owning a management company.
Mm-hmm. And I was looking at your website, and it seems like you have a pretty wide reach. You manage in Lansing, Kalamazoo, Muskegon, or are these just areas you could manage in if somebody needed?
Those are areas we could manage in, and our growth strategy right now is primarily focused on Muskegon County. We've spent a lot of time in the last year marketing and networking to housing inspectors, county employees and grant writers, and people that just have an interest in improving the Muskegon County area. I've gone through some training in Muskegon County through the Chamber to become a Muskegon Star. So I work with people interested in the community, investors interested in buying real estate, and kind of raising the bar as far as housing standards and what the housing base looks like over in Muskegon County. So I would say for the immediate future, we're kind of focusing towards the Lakeshore, but depending on the portfolio, we have some flexibility with our staff for growth.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Muskegon a little bit, because this podcast is sponsored by the Rental Property Owners Association, and it's meant to encompass all of Michigan.
Sure.
But because we're located here in West Michigan, it tends to be more about Grand Rapids and the surrounding area. Now, Muskegon, that's an interesting area I haven't talked to anybody about yet.
Okay.
So why don't you fill me in on what's exciting about Muskegon, some of the problems that they're overcoming, and the direction you see it heading.
You can see the sparkle in my eye because I get excited when I talk about my new passion. I've been going to Muskegon for just over a year, and it started because in the winter months I get a little bit restless looking for projects myself. So I had never been to Muskegon 2 years ago. I went over myself looking for a property on water that I could buy, that I could rehab and keep for myself. So my husband and I in the winter bought a condo on Lake Muskegon 2 years ago. And we bought it on a land contract, and it was going to be a fixer-upper project that we could enjoy during the summer. And while we spent those 3 months working on it, I kind of fell in love with the area. I fell in love with the natural resources, the water, the people. Even though what we see on the news is all very bad and negative publicity, I was pleasantly surprised that there's areas of the town that are holding their own, and they have quality housing. And so I started shopping, and I started myself buying real estate, kind of because as an investor, I think one of the core philosophies that many of us might share through the RPOA is that you always want to go kind of against the stream of where the deals are. And so when Kent County started heating up heavily in the last 2 years, I just was rapidly losing interest. And I still am always looking for good deals, but when I'm getting outbid on real estate here, or I'm seeing a lot of national and international buyers driving the prices up in Kent County, I just decided that it was time to pull out and take my money to a place where there was still a possible upside. So I tend to go into an area first and prove that it can be successful before dragging all of my investor friends in with me. So I did. I started buying properties. I've struggled with finding quality maintenance, quality labor over there. But one area where I haven't struggled is finding a good tenant base. I think that Muskegon County has a history and a reputation of having probably what you would call subpar landlords. And maybe that's a historical thing over generations. But a tenant base can get very used to being treated a certain way. And if you have a good landlord that comes into town and believes in housing code standards and fixes properties up and making them safe and habitable, you can command the respect of your property by picking a good tenant. And from our experience, properties that we filled over there, the tenant base has been extremely excited and happy to see fresh blood in town. And we're not having any problems over there at all.
Well, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's exciting.
What type of properties are you investing in, types of neighborhoods and price points, if you don't mind talking about that?
No, I don't at all, because we're sampling different areas. Several of the properties we've bought have been in the Lakeside area. And when we started almost a year ago.
So
Sure.
I'm almost completely ignorant about Muskegon. So I don't know if the Lakeside area is a good area, a middle class area.
There's several areas over there that almost remind me, if you're from Grand Rapids, they almost remind me of the Alger Heights area. The Lakeside area is close to the waterfront. It's
older properties, I would
probably
imagine.
a little. Well, I think a lot of Muskegon area is older properties. You're going to find that in the last 10, 20 plus years, there hasn't been a lot of new construction. So I think you're looking at a lot of properties that are built in the 70s-ish, 50s to 70s. But there's a lot of the Roosevelt Park area is a lot of the row houses of Cape Cods, very structurally solid. They just are tired. The Lakeside areas by the waterfront, again, and those houses, we've seen a mix of quality houses, some that should be torn down, but then if you look hard enough, you can find good properties. We're buying houses anywhere from probably $30,000 to $50,000 a house, where comparable houses in Grand Rapids right now would be 30 to 40% more than that for the same house. Now also the rents are lower. So, you can't expect to be getting $1,100 for a house over there like you can in Grand Rapids. But it still makes sense if you're looking at neighborhoods that are stable over there where there's going to be some upside growth in the next couple of years. Multi-units have been a little harder to find, but we've got some screaming deals locked up and closed in the last 6 months over there as well.
Really? Do you mind talking about?
Not at all. I bought myself a 10-unit building that was in need of work. But I like to do that kind of stuff. So to me, if a house is in poor condition or a property in poor condition, when my crew goes in and fixes it up, I know it's quality and I know what work has been done. So I would rather do the work myself and get the elbow grease in. But that 10-unit building I bought for $155,000.
Wow, $155,000 for 10 units.
It was fully occupied.
So about just over $15,000 a unit.
Yeah, and it's not over the next 3 to 5 years. I know that I'll be putting probably 30, maybe a little bit more into it. But it can be a piecework
all together. So
yeah, they'll be more invested in it as we go, $5,000 to $6,000 per unit probably. So,
sure. But still, I mean,
that'd be even more than $30,000. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that still sounds like a great deal.
It's a great deal.
Are these one bedroom, one bath, or
Yep.
two bedroom?
They're all one bedroom, one bath, and they're about a block and a half from Lake Muskegon. So they're very close to the park and the festivals. And there's a Christian music festival that goes on there every year that's quite popular in different activities. That's very walkable.
So
from where the property
walkable
is.
to the downtown area, walkable to the lake.
Yeah.
What a fantastic location. What kind of rents do you get?
The one bedrooms over there, that specific building includes gas and electric. Landlord pays gas and electric. So that building for one bedroom apartments are renting for about $550. With the utilities included. It's respectable for the
very respectable
return. Yeah.
That reminds me of where Grand Rapids was 5 years ago.
Right. When we all had the good old days and we were able to buy stuff for those kind of deals. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. What? Tell me about the direction you see Muskegon heading. Well, actually, before you even talk about that, tell me kind of where for those who aren't familiar with Muskegon, what's been happening there that has kind of caused the prices to be so low? And then on the flip side of that, what do you see happening in the future or now that's going to help improve the values?
Yeah. Historically, Muskegon has been a heavy manufacturing town. And so during the last 10, even 20 years in Michigan, as lots of our manufacturing jobs have gone away, Muskegon had not done a very effective job on rebuilding and rebranding themselves, kind of like Grand Rapids did. We were able to diversify here. They've lost a lot of their shipping. They've lost their paper plant. Their consumers plant is shutting down right now. So a lot of the working class jobs have gone away. What's changing, what's triggering the change is that several of the municipalities over there got together last year and decided to do an all-encompassing rebranding of the whole community. So they launched the Muskegon Watch Us Go campaign. And if you Google that now, you'll see it's one of very few in the nation that has been this successful and has grown as quickly as it has, where they're bringing together, first of all, like reputation management, where they're trying to take the people that are in the community and have them not think such a negative viewpoint of their own area that they live in. Right now, I can tell you that the county of Muskegon is working. They've got a full-time grant writer that's writing grants as fast as she can right now to bring in money for the port for the shipping and receiving that they have. And because they had lost so much in the manufacturing, they're looking at new and improved ways to try to utilize the natural resource, which is the port of Muskegon that goes through Lake Michigan. So they're going at it from different angles. One of them is tourism. The other one is the shipping of agricultural products. And they're writing grants with the government through agricultural programs, different shipping programs, trying to be a preferred supplier through our waterways, which is a natural resource. That will help. The reputation management will help. And then there's whispers all the way through Grand Rapids right now where there's different business people looking at relocating and putting different businesses and expansion over there. So there's definitely a feel if you go through Muskegon and spend any time there right now that as all of these recession areas hit bottom, they have to eventually, and they're going to start an upswing, that it's definitely Muskegon starting to be on the upswing, that they've bottomed out, the momentum is growing, and there's an excitement over there.
So Muskegon definitely seems to be the next area of growth.
Shh, don't tell anybody.
We'll keep that secret.
Just between us friends.
Well, it's and I'd like to ask this question, and it's really, I have limited experience with Muskegon. I've been there a couple of times, and the two things that I hear or have seen, number one is the schools, because they went broke and they were taken over by the state. Isn't that the case? And then the number two thing that I'd like you to mention is the paper plant. When you drive to the lakeshore, you pass that paper plant, which it looks like a bomb went off.
It does.
So it's been over a year since I've been past that, but has that changed at all? Let's
talk about the schools first. You're right. They were under, I think, an emergency manager for a period of time, but that's not the only district over there. And so several of the properties we're buying right now are by Muskegon Catholic. There's Norton Shores. There's several different school districts over there. Several of which, if I'm not a huge sports fan, but I think several of those go to state playoffs every year for football. So they have some really good things about them too. A lot of the things we hear on the news are usually the negative things and not the positive things. So just like we have here in Grand Rapids schools are rocking right now, but the Muskegon public schools aren't the only option that's over there. There's other options. Regarding the paper plant, I drive directly past that paper plant onto my condo when I go over to Muskegon Lake. So anyone who drives by and sees that horrible eyesore, which the final stacks are being prevented from being taken down due to some asbestos issues and some stuff that has to be cleaned up over there. But that is a very major body of water there. And if you keep driving past it and you end up on Pere Marquette Beach, you'll see free parking, the most beautiful lakeshore that I've ever seen in the state of Michigan. And if you go to the far south side of that, there's miles long of a dog beach, which is available to dog lovers in the county. And absolutely the friendliest people you ever see. You'd think you're in a different state down in Florida on the beach somewhere. The water's colder, but it's not salty, so it's awesome still. So the paper plant remains an eyesore over there, but I just have to believe that for the prime real estate that it is, that there's going to be some kind of super fun cleanup site that is inevitable that will it's going to have to happen.
Yeah, it really seems like it's on a prime piece of beachfront there.
It really is. It's amazing there.
Yeah. Well, what kind of advice do you have for people who might start looking to invest in Muskegon?
This, to me, really feels like no-brainer advice, but I feel the need to say it. I've spent the last year over there talking to housing inspectors, and I've talked to Muskegon housing inspectors, and I've talked to Muskegon Heights housing inspectors, because the reputation that comes with those areas, I wanted to be really educated before I went in there. And I asked both of them the same question. I said, why should I invest in real estate? Now, it's true, you can go into the city of Muskegon Heights right now and you can buy a house for $3,000. You can probably buy a house for less than that. The place where people go wrong, and any of us that have been in this business long enough would say this is common sense. If you think you're going to go in and buy a $3,000 house, change the locks and put a tenant in it, you're dead wrong. You're going to crash and burn. You're not going to get the support of the community. If you go over there and you act like you've done this before and you make friends with the inspectors and the government officials that are over there and you say, hey, it's true, I'm an outsider, but I'm here to make it better. And I don't have the false expectation that for $3,000 I can get a working, functional house. It's just not possible. Pretty much most of the municipalities in our area are requiring houses to be at the 2012 building code standards or better. Don't know of anyone who's ever bought a $3,000 house and been able to say it's in 2012 building code standards. At the end of the day, if you go in and you buy a house in that price bracket, or even in the $10,000 or $15,000 price bracket, you need to expect you're going to put $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in rehab in it. And I always operate from the philosophy that it's better to do it now than milk something along and do it later. I would rather buy the $3,000 house, put the new roof on, the new mechanicals, get the updated furnace in there, get some windows in, and get rid of the lead-based paint hazards, which we should be very worried about with our climate in Michigan right now. But if you go in and you do it right, you're going to get on their side immediately out of the gate, and they're going to know you're authentic and you're not a predator. Who West Michigan has brought several predators to Muskegon Heights in the last 20 years that have demolished the housing base. They're excited and they're welcoming new blood that's willing to do it right.
Yeah. So conscientious owners who really care about the tenants.
Yeah, be part of the solution. Don't be part of the problem that's making it worse.
Yeah. Well, you talk about the lead problem. Do they have a program there like we have here that get the lead out?
They do. They have a government, county government and a city program, from what I've been told. So they have money available. They are in the same situation that we were in recent years. It's finding the qualified workers. So if you can find a lead remediated, approved abatement contractor, you're doing good. And they have a couple over there, but just like around here, everybody's just in need of qualified maintenance workers right now. That's the struggle.
Right. Finding the people to do the work.
Yeah.
It's
really
not
is
so
true.
easy at the moment.
Yeah. One other thing, just to let you and the listeners know as well, is that we have secured a location in Muskegon. So after my management company's been in business for 13 years, this spring we'll be opening our first branch office, which will be right in Muskegon City, just 2 blocks from the Hackley Hospital over there. So we're excited to have local presence and start being able to employ administrators and people that can actually help us do on-site and monitoring and have our eyes on the portfolios over there. So it's exciting.
That's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Excited.
So does that mean you're at the point now where you are bringing your investor friends into Muskegon with you?
I am. I'm spending at least 1, possibly 2 days every week right now over there, and we're walking through the HUD houses and the foreclosures. And one thing that I've just found to keep in the back of your mind is that there's a generation of property owners in Muskegon that have had their properties so long and seen the values go down for so long that if you approach them about purchasing, it's almost like they go into shock. Like, it's been so long since anyone's been aggressive about buying anything over there that the deals are fantastic. And there's a aging population of property owners over there that are very willing to sell and liquidate, even if it's not listed for sale. So Yeah.
Yeah, they own their properties free and clear, most likely.
A lot of them are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they want to retire, but they didn't think that there would be ready, willing, and able buyers lately.
Well, it's nice to see the tide turn in their favor.
Yeah.
So if Lighthouse has an arm there in Muskegon, do you have the labor force to do a lot of the work that you're talking about that needs to go into these properties?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year because everything when you start out fresh is trial and error. And I remember in Grand Rapids trying and struggling and building relationships with contractors. And I'll tell you, it hasn't been easy. We put our first 2 roofs on in Muskegon County. Thought I had found my perfect contractor over there, only to get a contractor lien slapped on the house within 30 days. So I've been importing a lot of Grand Rapids vendors and trying to get some of my contacts to open branches over there. But the good news is a lot of that heavy lifting and that vetting process I've got a head start on in a year of trial and error. So we have a good roofer now, and we have a carpet company and a couple maintenance techs, and we're definitely looking to grow and to add to that. One thing we've also done has been heavily promoting the tech center, the M-Tech Center over on Port Sheldon. I think it's between Grand Haven and Muskegon. But for the last year, they've offered a certified maintenance tech training program where you can send young people in to get trained on appliance repair, basic plumbing, basic electrical, and we just put our first student through that program. So he spent, 2 weeks on each subject with professional technicians in that trade, learning how to be an apartment maintenance technician. And we're very excited because we're using him a lot, and he's growing his skills and can go to school and hone those skills at night. But they're always looking for students. So hopefully in the future, we'll be putting more students through that to train them how to work in our field.
That's a special program that you offer?
The M-Tech Center started it in conjunction with the Property Management Association about a year ago. And so they have the funding. Well, it's relatively inexpensive. There is funding for some people that demonstrate a need, but it's not horribly expensive to get a certificate, a nationally recognized certificate in property maintenance. It's a relatively short program. It's a couple nights a week where they cover different techniques and different trades in our field. But anybody that owns real estate that's always looking for good maintenance techs, it's hard sometimes. So
it's great exciting. They offer that type of vocational training to younger students.
We should all be looking for people to send through that class.
Yeah, absolutely. So Muskegon is your passion right now. What else are you passionate about?
Real estate, the buy-sell game has always been my thing. It's always what I enjoy is finding the good deal. And then when it's time, selling it for the right price. So to me, it's all about how the property is being maintained and managed and where the numbers fall. That's kind of a hand-in-hand thing. I guess I'm one of those lucky people that gets to do exactly what I love to do every single day.
And you have your own portfolio then. I mean, you have the management company. You have your own portfolio. Talk about that. Talk about your real estate investing, the type of properties you invest in, your strategy.
Okay. I was extremely lucky that owning a management company during the recession, I got to see, I was unlucky that I got to see a lot of hard times. I got to see probably 2 owners a month lose their properties to foreclosure. But I was very blessed in the standpoint that I had several owners that worked for me that believed that the real estate would go back up in value. So I was able to cultivate 4 or 5 private money lenders, like hard money lenders. And during the recession, I was able to buy a significant amount of real estate. I was probably buying 1 to 2 houses a month for about 3 years in the worst of the recession.
So this would have been between 2008, 2011?
11, yeah. And on since then. That was at a period of time where all of us that wanted to be investing in real estate were not able to get mortgage financing on it. So that paid off very well for me. That was kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity to be there for that. During that time, I was buying strictly single family homes. In the last probably 12 to 24 months, I've started diversifying a little bit just so that I'm not all a single family home portfolio. And so now I'm starting to mix it up with some 6 to 8 to 10 unit buildings here and there. But I'm really picky about buying stuff. I never would want to just buy something because I feel like I need to. Every deal that I've ever locked on, I feel like it's the best deal ever. And so people that are friends with me on Facebook, they probably get tired of it because every once in a while I feel like I've got a home run and I'm like, oh my God, I just bought the best property ever. But if you don't feel that way in your gut, like if your instinct tells you it's the best deal ever, you should buy it. if you're nervous or questioning it, you just really shouldn't. There's just too many unknowns in this industry. It's very difficult.
Have you ever gone against your instinct and bought one that you weren't so excited about?
Oh, this is going to be, the people that were close to this deal will know who I'm talking about. I have the office park that I'm in right now. It was my first kind of toe in the market of commercial real estate. And I bought 2 years ago a 90% vacant office park that had 30 commercial office spaces in it. It was a 30,000 square foot office park. It's right on 28th Street. You'd think it's, 28th Street. It's very busy. But it was scary. My history wasn't in commercial at all. And the buildings are slightly obsolete. Their life expectancy is probably done. So I was nervous about it. And the players that were in on that transaction, I'm sure they'll hear this and they'll chuckle a little bit. It's paid off well. But that was one of those deals where you're motivated by just raw fear that you don't want to screw it up, that you have to do a good job with it. So it's paid off, and we're happy that we're there, and we needed the extra space, but it was jumping into the fire and just trying to figure out how to do the commercial side. It was cool.
Yeah. What was the learning curve like to do commercial? Because it's very different from doing residential.
Yeah. And you have to think, most of us that do multifamily housing, how lucky are we that we're in a pretty much a recession-proof business? No matter how many offices shut down and buildings stay empty, people need a place to live. And you can always collect some rent off of that. Buying an office park with 28 starter offices in it, you had to rapidly realize that 3 out of 5 small businesses fail. And so if I'm putting 28 small businesses in and helping them and supporting them and mentoring them, you can still come in on Monday and find one of them's empty because they just, they have to live before they can pay their office rent. So, but I had good resources, and I made sure that I had the right attorney and the right mentors in that market, and it's worked out fine. And I've met some great startup businesses that I can, brainstorm with too. So it's been fun.
So you started with, did you say 90% vacancy?
Yeah.
And what did you get your occupancy up to?
As of today, we have 2 vacant offices. So we have 27 of them-ish filled. And our company takes 1 full floor of one of the buildings. So
your occupancy is 98, 99%.
It is. It's doing really well.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How did that work? Did someone bring it to you? Because were you looking for a commercial space? Or?
No, I was very happy. If anyone's known my original office before over on Porter Street, we were in a 120-year-old, just a little teeny building off Porter Street. And we were very happy that we were sitting on top of each other. And whenever a industry professional comes to me and says they have an opportunity, all of us stop and listen. Well, a realtor friend walked in one day and says, "Hey, I found your new office." And I'm like, "Well, that's great, but I'm not looking for a new office." He goes, "Just get in the car." And so they drove me over to this vacant building, and it was just priced, it was when you can find a great deal. So it was a good opportunity, and one that just when presented to you, just have to take a leap. So yeah, it was cool.
Well, I'm glad it worked out for you.
Thank you. It could have gone the other way.
It could have. So that's an example of one where your gut wasn't really saying this is the best deal ever.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot more fear there because you were doing something that you weren't accustomed to.
Yep. And there's some large tracts on 28th Street that's empty. So, it's more of a coin toss than an apartment building would be.
Yeah. Well, especially for office because, 28th Street is really kind of coming back into its own as a retail location, but for office space, office is lagging behind a little bit.
Yeah, I think we got lucky because when we're on Craigslist advertising, we can advertise office space with free parking, and everyone thinks it's cool to be downtown right now. But when you factor in parking issues for your employees and things like that, I think we've got a sweet spot for starter businesses that are economical and trying to be conservative. So
absolutely, yeah, parking definitely. Having free parking, plenty of free parking, is a big bonus.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and not having to trudge, blocks and blocks through the snow in the wintertime to get from your parking garage to your office makes a difference.
It does.
Yeah. So is it safe then to assume that every other deal that you've bought, you've felt was the best deal ever and has turned out to be the best deal ever?
Every deal that I've bought, I feel like is the best deal ever. Not all of them have turned out. Anybody who's bought in a fair share of foreclosure, winterized, buy it as is properties will know that if you buy enough of them, you're going to get burned.
Yeah.
So
well, that's what I want to hear about.
Yeah, okay.
I want to hear a good, juicy, getting burned.
Okay, I have
horror
two.
Story.
I have two that I can share with you. The HUD foreclosure that I bought in Kentwood, that was the best deal ever. HUD tries to do a great job with their contractors winterizing the properties. This property had not been winterized well and was a large 2-story home, all 3 floors finished, but it was boiler heat system. So when we went to pressurize the boiler, we realized it hadn't been winterized, and we bought the home in January. So our contractor, no, I think we bought it closer to December because it was right during the holidays. And the plumbing contractor was in there for almost 2 straight weeks trying to find holes in the boiler from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor to the lower level, and ended up, I think we went over budget by about $7,000 in what we were expecting for there. And it was a flip home, and it had some special circumstances. So, I think that was probably about a break-even house. So that's not worst case scenario. You still bellyache about it because you wasted time on one like that.
Was that a flip?
That was a flip
so
to
you bought,
sell.
Fixed it up, flipped it.
Yeah, that was a home.
You at least broke even.
That was a break even, but it was if we would have known. So I guess that's not the worst case scenario. And then, as much as I'm bragging about Muskegon, before I started buying properties to rent in Muskegon, I thought flipping properties might be the way to go. So 2 years ago, when I was learning Muskegon, I did buy 2 houses with the intention of flipping them because I was shocked the prices were so low. I got them flipped. But when you learn a new market, there's those learning curves. When you're trying to become an expert in an area, you're going to screw up. And the first 2 houses I bought in Muskegon County, the time on market to flip them was triple Grand Rapids. And the prices weren't as high as I thought. And both of those 2 houses ended up having negative. At the end of the day, we ended up losing money on both of them. So I went into the corner and I licked my wounds and I cried and I was like, I hate Muskegon. And then, I went back out there and saw how beautiful it was again, and the people were nice. And so I started buying rapidly, but with the long-term hold as my strategy. I think that's going to be a better strategy.
The buy and hold strategy.
Yeah, I think that the appreciation hasn't proven to be over there like what we see in Grand Rapids. So the fast flip for $1 doesn't make sense. It's more of a long-term commitment to the community.
Mm-hmm. So on the flip side of that, those are 2 horror stories there. Mm-hmm. What's one of your biggest success stories?
What's funny is that I'm sure most people would have that in their mind. If I was to be honest with you, the thrill that I get out of getting the deal locked down and flipping it successfully is what gets me going. Being totally honest, I would have to look through the numbers. I don't track my success in the money that's made off each flip. My favorite property that I own right now, I can tell you that because I couldn't tell you my biggest flip property that I've done. I just don't track it like that. The best property, the best deal that I own right now, people that have been in this area for a long time are going to cringe, but about 5 years ago, I was approached by a local bank who had taken on a 15-unit apartment building. And they wanted my company just to manage it, and they couldn't find a company that would manage it for them.
Is this over on Taft?
This is on Taft. Yes, it is. And I sent them away the first time, and I said, I don't manage properties on Taft Street. It's too scary. And they came back, and I ended up managing it for them, and they paid a premium for me to manage it because I was scared of Taft Street. They sunk a ton of money into cleaning up the mechanicals and making the property right. And about 6 months later, we had evicted 70% of the building and flipped the units and had people that were paying rent now in it. They were about to list it for sale. And I talked to my husband one night and I said, we've done all the hard work and we're comfortable with the tenant base, and the tenant base that's moving in there is good. I mean, they're good people. I'm like, let's just go back to them and ask them if they'll sell it to us. So they did. They made some great financing terms for us. And then once I owned a building on Taft Street, I like to do things in a group. So I called an investor of mine and I'm like, hey, I have something on Taft Street. Do you want to come over and be on Taft Street with me? So we ended up brokering the other 3 buildings on that intersection on the corner of 28th and Taft Street in Wyoming. And we manage 48 units, I think, over there right now. And then 2 years ago, we went to the National Apartment Association and we won a national award for Taft Street for the biggest turnaround of a small independent owned property. And we're really proud of that because, in a part of town where police officers wouldn't even go without 2 cars to do a response. Every August right now we have National Night Out block parties on the street, and it's just really cool to see it turning into a community and turning into people that care and not be scared to live there. And so that would probably be the biggest success.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations. I'm familiar with that property in that area. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So that's great. What advice do you have for investors who are looking to get into what you're doing? And given today's economy, the state of real estate, what would you advise?
If you're young, and I mean young by not tied down with children in school and mortgages and bills, the number one advice is that you have to get dirty. You can't be the guy that just wants to buy property, hire everything out, and expect to make money. You need to get in, you need to build sweat equity, and you need to be willing to do anything that goes on. As you put the blood, sweat, and tears into it, it will pay off, but it's a long-term thing. Nothing good comes easy. That's the first piece of advice. When I was younger, before my son was in school, I would buy a house, I would live in it while I was fixing it up, and the second it was like I wanted it, I would sell it, and then I would buy the next house. And I lived in a lot of crappy houses in a lot of crappy neighborhoods. But if this is going to be your lifestyle, it's going to be something that you're committed to, and it's not going to be sexy at first, and it's not going to be glamorous at first, and you're not going to be living on a golf course somewhere, drinking umbrella drinks. So you're going to get dirty, and you're going to work for it really hard, and you're going to get setbacks. That's the first piece of advice.
So wait, you're saying I can't get rich quick overnight by investing in real estate?
I've been doing this for 15 years, and I can honestly say I still have never brought a paycheck home from my properties. Every time I cash flow positive, I'm either paying off another house or I'm buying another house. My goal is that if I can retire when I'm 50, I'll have enough income. But until all of my properties are paid for in full, I don't take a draw from my properties. There's always going to be another roof, and there's always going to be another car that drives through a building, and there's always going to be something unexpected, drug raid or bed bugs. So you just have to be ready for the storm.
So that part of your strategy then is buy and hold and pay down the debt on your property until you own it free and clear.
It's kind of almost embarrassing to say, but anything that I buy on either a 5-year or a 10-year amortization. If I can't pay it off as fast as I can pay off a car, then I'm not going to buy it. So
not just a 5-year or 10-year
5-year
balloon,
or a 10-year amortization.
Amortization.
Amortize in full.
You're paying huge monthly payments.
More than the rent payment that comes in.
Wow.
I do negative cash flow in order to create equity. Now, I was lucky because I was buying during the recession, so I was buying properties that you could afford to pay off in 5 years, which was easy. But keep in mind also, I'm paying on private money, I'm paying between 9 and 11% interest on all of my mortgages. So it doesn't benefit me to hold them for more than 5 or 10 years. If I can't pay it off, then I'm just not going to buy it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So your principal pay down is pretty huge each month, but at the end of that 5 to 10 year period, you're going to own a lot of your properties free and clear.
Yeah.
And at that point, you can go sit on the beach and go off at the golf
umbrella drinks. Right. In the meantime, the other most important piece of advice is no matter what you're making at your primary job or your main career or what your spouse is making, you need to live on half. Most people live excessively above their means. You absolutely have to say, okay, if I make $50,000 a year, I need to survive as if I was making $30,000 a year. And you need to be that strict and dedicated and disciplined, or it's seriously, we see more landlords fail than succeed. You have to be razor focused on what your goals are.
So are you advocating having a budget that you have to stick to and really watching every penny that you spend?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people like to have the fancy cars and the new stuff. And over the years, I've seen a lot in my peer group, not in this business, really move up the ladder and live in very nice houses and stuff like that. And I'll tell you that my husband and I were committed from day one of not taking on debt, not financing a car, never letting a credit card go to the point where I'm paying interest. So everything gets paid to zero every single month.
Wow. And let's go back to you mentioned your investors, you get private money. Is that primarily how you're funding your acquisitions, is through private money?
Yeah, if you can prove that you're successful in this industry, there's a whole class of people out there that have a lot of money but don't want the headaches of being a landlord. And I'll tell you, even in the last 3 weeks, as we've watched the stock market just be embarrassing up and down and people are on edge, a good landlord, a good investor like myself that's buying real estate should be able to find private money. And if anyone wants to talk to me about that, I'm always available for a cup of coffee. But in order to approach people with wealth that want to loan private money, there's a couple secrets. One is that you never act desperate. 2 is that you act like you have a track record of proven success. And 3 is that you're very humble. You give them the first and only lien on the property. And the day you buy it, you tell them that the second I'm a day late, I'm going to quit claim you and give you this house back. You have zero risk. That you would never be the kind of person to have a reputation where you would fight if you're losing it. You have to always take care of your investor first. And that's been extremely successful. I don't have to go to a bank ever. I get a great deal on a property and I go down my phone tree and I call my investors and somebody wants to loan me the money because it's a great return and it's low risk.
So let's talk about that. First of all, how many private investors are on your list?
Right now there's 6 or 7.
Oh, that's a good number. Yeah. And if you find an opportunity, you would bring it to them. Are they putting up all cash, the full amount, or how do you structure that?
My investors, it's important to them to know that I have some skin in the game. So my investors will finance 100% of the purchase price of the home, knowing that the homes that I buy are bad. So they're financing 100% of the purchase price of a piece of crap, basically, knowing that I have a whole crew of contractors that go in the day that I buy it. We put the roof on, we put the furnace in, we put cabinets back in, we put appliances in or floor, whatever it takes to make it market value. At my expense. So it's kind of I don't want to say a partnership because it's not, but they know that immediately I'm putting in $10,000-ish into rehabbing the house. And that I'll have it done within 30 days and that the house is doubled in value within 30 days. So they know that they have, good equity position in that private money loan. It's not the kind of thing where you can be casual and say, oh, I'll flip it in the next 3 months, with a beer at night after I finish my day job, because you just don't get it done and the holding costs are high.
Wow.
You got to get a body in the house.
And what's the normal term of this private money? Are you paying them back in a couple years, 5 years, 10 years? 5 years, most of them. Some will do 10 years. They're all in amortizations. They're not on interest only. They're between good private money goes, if you can get 9%, you're doing good, up to 11%. So private money would want 9 to 11%.
9 to 11%.
Any points with that?
It depends on the investor. And it depends on your strategy too. If I go to buy a house and I'm planning on flipping it in 90 days and making a $20,000 return, that investor's probably not going to be happy just with getting 9% for 3 months, knowing that you're going to make some money. So some investors will want a couple $1,000s as a prepayment or something.
Yeah, they're going to tie their money up for 3 months.
Yeah, knowing how good you're going to do. Yeah, they're going to want to be rewarded and thanked for that as well. So each investor tends to make their own set of rules, but it kind of depends on what your game plan is too.
And the reason, help me understand the reason you're using private money as opposed to bank money, because you can definitely get better interest rates through a bank. And I can make assumptions as to why you're doing it, but why don't you tell me?
Sure. If you're looking to be a real estate investor and it's your primary line of work, first of all, conventional residential mortgages, you can't get more than, I think it's 5 or 7 residential mortgages on one person's credit score. So it caps you out there. Secondly, it takes 30 to 60 days to get a mortgage. A lot of times there's inspections involved. A lot of times lenders are just nervous if they see something that's condemned or doesn't have functional plumbing or adequate flooring. So I think that it's probably pretty common sense that cash buyers get the best bang for their buck. And if you have private money that's willing to be wired in 24 hours, you have the best options to get the best value for the property versus having to go through an appraisal.
You're able to close quickly and close quickly with cash.
Yep.
That's a huge advantage over other investors.
It is. Yeah. For somebody that's thinking about starting out that wants to build that reputation where they can get to that point, they should go out right now today and they should buy a 4-plex and they should move their family into one of the 4 apartments and they should prove that they can be a landlord. Because then at least you have a roof over your head, you have some money coming in, you can build a track record. And then once you're ready to move out, you own that 4-plex forever. And then you have money coming in and you can move on to either flips or other multi-units or other properties. But you should be willing to sacrifice and either live in it, do something like that so you can at least get started. Because the cases that I'm describing and the experience that I've had, they didn't just start like this. It started and built over the years.
Right. So, when you first started seeking private money, what was your track record? What did you have to offer?
When I started seeking private money, I already owned the management company. So people knew that I was a professional manager. And some of them were clients that I was managing their property for, and we had built a relationship already. But not all of the private money was like that. Through my sphere of influence, I've worked with insurance agents, I've worked with engineers, I've worked with public school teachers. My private money has come from a variety of different avenues, not all of which were clients, but all of which knew that I had the right level of integrity and the right track record. Those are the two important things. Your private money can be a doctor, it can be a lawyer, it can be someone from out of state, but they have to know that you'll be very humble if you screw up. You'll give the property back, because the last thing a private money guy wants is a hassle. He doesn't want to chase you, and he doesn't want to foreclose on you.
Yeah, because they're investing private money because they want passive
they want it to be easy. They want you to do all the work, and then you have to still thank them for the opportunity to pay them 10%.
Exactly. Everybody wins, though.
Right. It's true. Yeah, it's worked great.
Yeah. So as we wrap it up here, I want to ask you a little bit about your involvement with the RPOA.
Yeah.
I've been told you're on the Governmental Affairs Committee.
This is true.
Do you mind talking a little bit about the RPOA and what you do with it?
Sure. I have been on the board for a couple years. I'm currently not on the board any longer. I do sit on the Government Affairs Committee. I have kind of a unique perspective because I'm kind of the bridge liaison between the PMA, the Property Management Association, and the RPOA. I sit on the Government Affairs Committee for both. So I think that benefits us when we're dealing with issues that affect the whole industry, for big apartments all the way down to the guy that owns one single family home. You know, all of us have concerns about inspections. All of us have concerns about bed bug legislation and who's to fault for that. And then the big one right now is the medical marijuana. And so the RPOA has tremendous passion and boots on the ground in protecting our properties and trying to make sure that we can say whether or not drugs, whether they're legal or illegal, are smoked in our properties. I think we would all agree that not allowing medical marijuana in our properties would reduce crime. And a whole lot of other issues, from common area ventilation systems and smoking and all kinds of other issues. Partnering with the Property Management Association allows us access to the big time legal teams from the apartment communities and the national resources on fighting these issues as well. So I am excited because I get to see and sit on both committees and try to offer benefit where I'm able to.
Fantastic. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.